Hello everyone, my name's Damien Hine and I am the author of the Hearthmark Chronicles, a brand new epic fantasy trilogy which is releasing in the year 2021. This year I've been taking us through an exclusive short story called The Trial of the Wanderer, which tells the story of the Lightspark trial of one of the fan favourite characters, Vandria. She has been given the task of hunting down a monstrous creature known as the Dust Drake. She's very early on in her hunt. She doesn't know much about the creature, but because it's about to go dark, she has decided that she is going to try and take down the creature before it wakes up. So, here we go. Part 4. Crouched behind a rock, the blade of her stave trembled. The breath of the drake was omnipresent. It gusted through her, driving her lungs against the back of her ribs, before raking back and heaving her insides into the rock before her. Before long, her insides felt like they had been scooped out and sprayed across the floor. The sun was an inch from the planets. No time to wait. She straightened up, raised her stave, and advanced. Still the beast slept. In, out went its breath, blasting her hair back before sweeping it back over her shoulders. The shadow of the cave crossed her face and her skin crawled. She had the sudden sensation it was not the beast who was trapped, but her. Here she was, right before it, and now it seemed to dwarf the mountain. How could she have thought it would be this easy? The sun was seconds from touching the planets. There was the drake's throat, exposed, vulnerable. She drove the stave forward. It all happened too fast. The beast's eyes blazed open to reveal a world of fire. Two burning pupils locked onto her, and what sounded like a chuckle spilled from its fanged mouth. Before the stave could meet its mark, the beast went still, and the steel passed through not flesh, but smoke. Vandria's eyes bulged. She almost lost balance. What? The beast could transform itself into smoke at will? Her vision dissolved into white sparks, which skittered in all directions. How could she ever... No time to think. The beast's mouth was shooting forwards. She leapt aside and felt the air crash shut behind her. A claw whirled round at her chest. She dove under it, ripped out her knives, and swung at its underbelly. Once again, the flesh burst into gasps of smoke before her. There was a rush of air as the belly arched high before freezing. Her eyes bulged. It meant to slap down and crush her. She rolled away, and the earth quaked behind her. For a moment, the drake was flat against the earth, open to attack. But what was the use? More smoke in her face? She turned and fled. Heart hammering in time with her feet, she pelted for the trees. Behind, she expected the earth to tremble as the drake picked up the pursuit, yet nothing came. She cast a glance back, and her jaw dropped. The beast wasn't running. No, the flaps round its torso had unfurled and cast it to the air. The drake was not only impervious to attack, it could also fly. As she passed the tree line, a branch ripped a sleeve of her coat, drawing blood. Still she ran. Sparks, let the trees slow it down. Sliding under a fallen tree, she stole a glimpse over her shoulder. The drake was dodging trees, soaring through the gaps, still after her. 3 conifers rose at once. The beast's entire body snapped into smoke, kept pummeling forwards, and took shape once more on the other side. Vandria threw herself on, sprinting for her life. The beast's mouth opened, glowed the same crimson as the planets overhead, and a column of fire blazed before it. All around, trees caught ablaze, while others crashed to the ground. Another branch slashed through Vandria's flesh, this time at shoulder height, but so congested were her veins with terror, she barely felt it. Much longer like this, and I'll be a crisp. Ahead were more trees. To her right, a cliff. I'll take my chances. She swerved and leapt. For a moment, air, wind, the roaring moan of trees blazing behind, Then gravity took hold and wrenched her down. She crashed through clouds of leaves, felt skin rip from her cheeks. Air rushed into her lungs. The ground rushed to meet her. A wide trunk raced past on her left. Before it could go, she threw out her arms and latched on. Ah! A shoulder being yanked from its socket. Nevertheless, she held fast. Suddenly, all was still. The cuts on her arms and cheeks, her whole body raged with pain. Above, the world was an inferno, but there was no sight of the drake. She settled herself on a nearby branch, closed her eyes, and heaved a sigh. Too soon. A hulking silhouette of darkness emerged through the fire, its wings outspread with eyes fiercer than the flames. It took to the air, sailed over the cliff, and the earth shook when it landed. The gleaming eyes raked the trees to find her. Don't see me. Her heart pulsed in her ears, throbbing loud enough it was sure to give her away. Please don't see me. The drake cast about. Where was the puny insect which had disturbed its sleep? It raised a claw and brought down a tree. Did it think it could hide from the great darkness? What utter foolishness. From on high, Vandria watched. Despite herself, her Emlegolian instincts were kicking in. The drake had not found her yet. It did not then have an acute sense of smell. Otherwise, it might have detected the scent of her blood or the steady stream of sweat sliding down her back. She tilted her head to one side and watched as the beast brought down another tree and roared. Curious. It seemed to know she was here, but, being blind to her presence, was destroying the surrounding environment in the hope of... what? Flushing her out? Then her lips parted. Ranfar had once told her of a phenomenon present among certain predators. Bats, lizards, dragonflies, they could see their prey, but only by its movements. Should the prey stay still enough, the predator would effectively be rendered blind. Could such a phenomenon be in effect here? The more the drake roared and brought down trees, the more she began to wonder. She made herself go still, forced herself to stop trembling, even attempted to still her own heart. The sun must have been sliding behind the planets for shadows were lengthening as the light escaped. Her limbs grew heavy, painful even, yet she remained still nonetheless. In time, the drake slowed down, eventually stopping altogether. When she thought she could hold still no more, the beast took flight and returned to its den. Vandria waited till she was certain it was gone before heaving a sigh of relief. She could have almost wept. Then she peered back towards the dark outline of the mountain. How? How in the world could she ever defeat such a beast? Even if she got close, she couldn't land a scratch. Her mind raced, seizing every fragment of information she had, but no solution presented itself. Her body slumped forward, while her head fell in her hands. Where was Ranfar? Where was Arkenhelm or her ma and pa? She needed them now. Not a soul stirred in the surrounding silence, but a few precious words surfaced. You are ready for this, Vandria, said Ranfar. I hope you know that. And she'd been so sure, hadn't she? Not an ounce of uncertainty. If Ranfar thought there was a way, perhaps there was. She just had to find it. On the back of her walker's words came others more powerful still. Today, said the great spark, you will show me what you are capable of. The corners of her cheeks stretched at the presence of a smile. A plan was forming.